Prolific Podcast. Hey. That's so loud in my ears. This life. All right. We're super excited for today because we have so much for you guys to hear. If you guys haven't watched the last episode with Megan, you guys need to check it out. It is our story, kind of how we met. It's our story, your story, kind of what you've walked through, your beginning journey on the missions field of global missions, but also the eyesight that every day is a missions field.
Everyday life
all that stuff. So,
and how you were prepared for today's episode.
For
today's conversation.
Yeah. So just the story of what the Lord did in you and all these things. And so it's like a 40-minute conversation. You guys need to go watch it. It's very, very powerful. But today's episode, we want to specifically focus on your story and what has happened
October
based off
7th,
October 7th, 2023. You were in Israel whenever the war broke out. And so we want to talk about that. Obviously, there's a lot before that, but we would love to just jump into that conversation and talk through that. So
what was your expectation, Megan? So so we talked about how God prepared you to go to Israel.
Yeah.
And so now you're about to go. So tell us how the going there developed, and just tell us, kind of walk us until October 7th.
Yeah. So my original, like I said previously, my original first mission trip globally was supposed to be Israel for 3 months. I was supposed to live there, stay there. I was actually supposed to live in the West Bank in Bethlehem and do that. And God kind of pulled the whole Abraham and Isaac and led me to South Africa. But as the global and local missions director at Wellspring Community Church, I was planning for Jerusalem Encounter, and I had asked permission, like, hey, with Jerusalem Encounter, like, can I go? Like, can I? And Joey and April were like, oh yeah, of course. Like, we want you to go. We were planning for you to go and all these things. And so I was able to raise money and save money, because I wasn't raising. It was an encounter. It wasn't a mission trip.
Right.
So I saved my money up, and I was able to go, and I was blessed to even be able to go. And
maybe explain what the encounter was considered. So
the encounter is it's like a little bit of missions and a Bible study tour. So our global partner of Wellspring is Firm. And so it's a Fellowship of Israel related ministries. And so Firm does these encounters, and they bring people and groups of people to Israel to encounter Israel. And so they go through Tiberias and Capernaum, and you're on the Sea of Galilee. You have the opportunity to be baptized in Jordan River, but you also, throughout all of those things, you get to meet their local community partners. So you get to see how this ministry is investing into this nation, pouring their heart into this nation for Yeshua, and just changing people's lives one at a time, however they can. And their heart is very much like my heart of, like, they build relationship first. Like, they seek to have a relationship with the people so that they can invest, and then, okay, what's different about you?
Right.
It's that spark that happens. And so I went on this Jerusalem encounter, and I met my friend Melissa, who is oversees their Jerusalem encounter and their tours department. And I told her my story about how I wanted to be in Israel, and it was so cool to just be standing in Tel Aviv, like talking to her. And she was like, well, if you feel called to Israel, why don't you come work for me? Like, I just landed. And I'm like,
I haven't been here for 5 minutes, bruh. Calm down.
Like, I just got through I was like, ha, ha, ha. Like, so funny. And she was like, well, yeah, we'll see. And I'm like, okay, fine. We get through this tour, and it's life-changing to just walk with the Lord and his nation and see his people and just be there. Like, I was there with my spiritual parents and some of my best friends, and it was just so incredible and life-changing. Like, it sold. Like, if I wasn't sold for Israel before, I was sold for Israel then. And I was like, oh Lord, like, what are you doing in me? And so towards the end, Melissa and I had a conversation of like, hey, I have this position. I don't have a job description. I don't have anything. Like, are you interested? And I was like, well, yeah, I'm very interested. But like,
which how long was the encounter?
2 weeks.
So 2 weeks.
Wouldn't it have been nice now, post October 7th, to have gotten a job description?
That's a good one.
We got
keep going, but I gotta keep my girl looking good. You got hair hanging out in your mouth. Other side.
On the other side.
I got you. I got you.
Thanks.
You're welcome. But yeah, so
he would do that for me. You would not do that for me.
Looked like you had tomato sauce on your face.
I got you, girl. I got you. I got you. All right, keep going.
So
2 weeks encounter.
2 weeks encounter.
Went through that. Yep.
Kind of got like an unspoken offer of like, we don't know what it looks like, but would you be interested? And I was like, yeah, I'd be interested. And we kind of kept in contact, but kind of didn't. Her and I both had like very crappy summers, just like a lot of family things, a lot of just different situations. And we get to the month of September, and whole spiritual parents, man, like Joey sits me down this time, and he was like, you just look dissatisfied. And I'm like, can y'all like just not read my emotions? Like if I'm miserable, like let me be miserable. Like at least for 5 minutes.
At least give me a little bit of time.
Like let me understand my own emotions first.
That's
like,
so awesome though that they care for you like that.
They know me so well, and I'm so blessed to have them. Like I just cannot, like I cannot speak enough about them.
Yeah.
But Joey like actually reached back out to Melissa and was like, hey, like, are you hiring our girl? Like, because if so, like we got a plan,
right.
like all these things. And
so he's negotiating for you. He's creating some scarcity.
He's being a good lead pastor of like, do I need to replace this position? But he's also being like a dad of like, I want the best for my daughter.
Right.
And April was the same way. So literally he calls her, and it was in the exact, like how God's timing works out. It was in the exact moment where she had literally prayed. She had just prayed like, Lord, send me someone. I need someone. I'm drowning. I need help. And 2 minutes later, Joey pops up on her phone and she answers. And April then looks at me after that phone call conversation, brings me into her office and is like, hey, like, could you pack your bags and like leave for Israel by Friday? It was like Tuesday, bro. And I was
Which is not Megan at the previous Megan from the last episode.
How did you receive that though when she told you that?
I was like, well, first off, like I'm big on loyalty and honor. And so like I had already like promised people like I would pet sit for them or like watch their kids. And I was like, I have to honor my commitments. Like I can't, like it's too late.
I have to pet sit.
Hey, your yes is very important to you.
My yes is very important to me. Like I'm committed to the people that I'm committed to, even if it's just watching their pets.
But did you have to let them down?
I'm with you.
No.
Why not?
I didn't, because I stayed committed to my commitments.
Wait, did you watch their pets after that Friday?
Well, no.
No, she didn't leave Friday.
I didn't leave that Friday.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, you're ahead of the ball.
Okay, sorry.
Like
her yes was a yes.
Sorry.
Patience, slow down a bit.
I have a screenshot I got to show him after this episode. You'll laugh at it. Keep going.
About patience. I was like, no. I have to honor my commitments. I was like, the earliest I could leave is like the beginning of October. And she was like, okay. She was like, just talk to Melissa. And so I messaged Melissa. Her and I started doing the logistics of everything. And she wanted to hire me, quote unquote, but she also like, she wanted to see how I did, like how it's like the 5 C's, and I always forget like 2 C's. She looked at me and was like, it's like chemistry, credit, character, like all these things. She wanted to see how I did with the staff, how I did living in Israel. And she wanted to get to know me, but also like see how I function in the position. So I was like, okay, it's fine. Like we bought my ticket and I flew out from the States October 2nd and landed October 3rd.
Which October 3rd was?
It was a Tuesday.
The Tuesday of that week.
The Tuesday of that week. And literally landed in Ben Gurion Airport, grabbed my luggage, got through customs, went to the bathroom, changed clothes, went straight to the office, like lugging. And this is my character, like lugging baggage of like 100% everything that I needed for the month. Through Tel Aviv, caught the train, hopped on a bus, walked like all down these paths to get to our office building.
Wow.
And it was exhausting, but
such a big girl, by the way. Right? I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
Such a big girl. You're like, just arriving in Israel, just grab the train, just go in places, man.
Yeah. Well, I'm also directly challenged. So Melissa met me at the airport to make sure
she wasn't alone.
Okay. So
she wasn't a big girl. Wasn't a big girl.
All right, keep going.
I could have really played that off well, but I'm too honest for that.
Yeah, like, I'm thankful. I'm thankful.
I'm proud of my imperfections. So I started in the office that day. I did some small things. She introduced me to what I would be doing that week. So get through Wednesday, kind of like sleep in a little bit to help with jet lag, get to the office, start doing those things.
And this is the 4th of October.
4th of October.
Yep.
5th of October had literally...
Wednesday.
5th was Thursday.
Thursday.
5th was Thursday.
5th was Thursday.
Wasn't the bombing on the Friday?
The 7th, Saturday. It
was Saturday morning.
It was Shabbat.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's
so
right.
Thursday, I felt so accomplished. I got everything I needed to do done in the office. And I closed my computer. And I remember walking out of the office and saying goodbye to one of the staff members and like the elevator door closing and just going home. And Friday, Melissa picked me up to go have Shabbat dinner with her because like buses and things like don't run on Shabbat and I only have a bus pass. So I had Shabbat dinner at her apartment, had so much fun. Like they walked me through like the challah bread prayer, the prayer over the wine, the prayer over the candles, and just like we had like tacos at night. Like it was just like that good sweet
Just
moment
beautiful.
of like
Yeah.
community, because like there's like an unspoken rule on Shabbat, you're not supposed to spend it alone. So like even if you're single, like you like people invite you to their home so that you're not alone.
Wow.
So
That's
it's
so
just
cool.
it's such a sweet, and it happens every week. And it's probably one of my favorite things about like being in Israel and even just being here, because I'll still like Shabbat with friends here and give them like that little nugget of sweetness and community. And
So it was a calm before the storm kind of thing.
it was a calm before, like it was like the pinnacle. Like
You're
felt
finally there.
I'm finally like I felt like God's delayed promise had finally come. And I was supposed to be there for a month, like the month of October, just for an internship to see how all those things fell. And I felt like I had gone to the it was a dumb thing. It's like I had gone to the grocery store and taken it back to my apartment. I'd finally gotten settled in my apartment. Like Miss Linda, my landlord, who is a blessing and a saint and just one of the best people, helped me adjust and get all my things. And her and I had set breakfast for her house Saturday morning. So it was sleeping in, and the leftover challah bread from the Shabbat dinner the night before at her house, she was going to use to make French toast, and we were going to have coffee and just like, she was going to show me around town a little bit to where I needed to go. And cause she was just, she literally kind of just like adopted me, and like our souls were just like, we just had very similar spirits, and like she just like poured into me so much, and I just let her. Like you know those people, like you just let them pour into you because you know it fills you up, it soothes your soul, but they're also someone you can go to with that outside perspective of like, hey, I'm going through this. Like I just need you to pray for me, and like they pray for you.
Yeah.
Like
they don't say,
you.
I'll pray for you, and then like dip out on you.
No, they pray for you in the spirit and everything. And it's just like dripping with honey. Like, I love her.
So this is Friday night.
Friday night, I'm driving through the city, going back to my place and just seeing all these like beautiful things about Israel that I love so much. And Saturday morning, October 7th, 2023, I wake up. I think it was like 7 or 8 o'clock. It was one of those like fuzzy wake ups.
Did you wake up on your own, or did they wake you up?
I heard the siren.
Okay.
So I have no idea what's going on. It sounds like a call to prayer, because my apartment was located in Jerusalem, and my balcony, like the Lord just like, when I say I was blessed, like he went above and beyond and how he blessed me. Cause my apartment literally looked at Mount Zion, which is where the old city was. And like the Mountain of Olives was to the right of it. Like I could just see the full,
That's
I was
beautiful.
spoiled. I like, God just like dropped the gift in my lap. And I remember like because the Temple Mount was so close, like we always heard the call to prayer from the Temple Mount. And so I just thought it was a call to prayer, but it sounded
The
sounded
call
different.
to prayer is all, but just because I think this is an important, it might not seem like an important detail, but I think it's kind of important that the call to prayer is actually, it's
part of the Muslim faith.
Correct. It's a Muslim call to prayer from the Temple Mount.
Yeah, it's a Muslim call to prayer from the Temple Mount,
From
and
their
it
mosque,
happens.
yeah.
It happens so many times a day, and like we would just hear it all the time. Like it was one of those routine things, and like it actually, that call to prayer, like even though it's a part of Muslim faith, convicted me of how much I prayed during my day. Like so, it also like boosted my faith and was something that was really cool to live through. And I remember thinking it was a call to prayer, but I remember waking up and I'm like, this is not the call to prayer. And like, I'm hearing things that like when you're waking up out of dead sleep, like you don't really know what's going on. And then Melissa's name came across my phone and she's like, do you know what's going on? And I was like, no. She was like, are you hearing a siren? I was like, yeah, I think so. And I told her, I was like, no, I think it's a call to prayer. And she's like, no, it's a siren. And I'm like, well, what does that mean? And she was like, you need to get down into a bomb shelter. She was like, you need to call Linda and find out where the bomb shelter is. And she was like, you just need to, and she was like, call me every hour or like text me every hour, keep me updated and just be safe. And so I called Linda and Linda's like, yeah, apparently we're getting missiles incoming. She was like, the bomb shelter is on the lower floor. It's behind the big white door. Just get in there and I'm going to try to make it all over to you all because her apartment was across from our apartment. And I remember sitting in there. And
by yourself?
No. So I had two roommates at the time that lived on the lower level of our apartment. Okay. And I remember sitting in there, like wanting to close the door and like my friend Crystal's making her coffee and like Christy's like walking around looking for like her phone. And I'm like, guys, there's a siren. Like,
you know, there's things, there's
incoming. So what I found out, as Crystal is very connected with our neighbors there of where we were living at. And so she was getting all the neighborhood updates. And that's when we found out that terrorists had come into the country. There was people dressed up as IDF soldiers knocking on doors, trying to get in.
Wow. Which explain IDF for everyone that's listening.
IDF is the Israeli army.
Israeli Defense Force, right?
Yeah, Israeli Defense Force. And so
they were posing as soldiers.
They were posing. They had uniforms. Yeah, they were posing as IDF soldiers, saying that we need to get into your home, we need to make it safe, whatever, and busting into houses and like murdering people.
Yeah, like butchering them.
Yeah, and so when you hear that, there's like, it's not just, oh crap, it's who am I going to text? Like you're always told about like, you know how preachers get on stage and they're like, if you were on a plane and your plane was going down and you had 30 seconds to text anyone, who would you text I love you to? And I had to face that in the physical reality. And I remember at first I only texted 3 people. I texted my spiritual parents, Joey and April, because I knew if anything happened, they would be able to tell the people that I love. And I texted my Uncle Johnny, who is my mom's brother. And he's probably one of my uncles that I'm closer to because of his relationship with my mom. And I remember texting them because we're 7 hours ahead. Hey, you're going to wake up and you're going to see things in the news. And I want you to know that right now I'm safe and I'm okay. But I also just want you to know that I love you. And I remember sending that knowing that I wasn't going to get a text back because they were still asleep. And Miss Linda finally came over from like 7 to 10. We had just constant sirens. And what the sirens mean, so that you all understand it means that you have an incoming missile or a rocket. And
which, by the way, also I want to point out, because you showed me this and it's kind of crazy, that the Israelite people also have an app.
We have, there's 2 apps that I have on my phone, and I still have them on my phone now. One is called Homefront, and Homefront is
the actual home defense. Yeah, it's defense.
Connected. It's connected to the Iron Dome, and it connects to your precise location. And so anytime there is a rocket from some foreign country coming into the nation, there's a siren that sounds, and it basically means, depending on your location, you can either have 15 seconds, you can have 45 seconds, or 90 seconds to get to a bomb shelter, because it means that you are in the projected impact zone of where this rocket's incoming. And so our neighbor, because we didn't have the app yet, our neighbor was like, when you hear that siren, you got it. Like, it's 45 seconds, you got to get down, and you just got to close the door. And Miss Linda had finally come over, and she made it over, and she was like, this is what you need to do. And so we, there was like this lull, like I would say 15 to 30 minute lull around 10:30 after we had been in the bomb shelter for a couple hours of just hearing everything. And
by the way, by hearing everything, do you mean like
hearing rockets?
Like rockets, right? So like it wasn't just a siren,
it
right?
wasn't
Like
just,
you were hearing like the bombs are like exploding, like
yeah, we were hearing the intercepted missiles that were incoming and the Iron Dome coming off, and like so it's like it's probably 4 different sounds. You hear a siren, you hear the Iron Dome go off, and then you hear the interception, or you hope that it was an interception.
Right,
and so actually,
which not all are intercepted, right? There's like a percentage of them
because of the mass amount of rockets that were being shot into Israel on October 7th. Not all of them were intercepted. And so,
which it wasn't just the 7th.
Right.
No.
Right.
No,
Like that's the other,
wasn't.
because that's the other thing. Like, and I think clarity. You know, one of the reasons why I was looking forward to talking to you is because there. You know, sometimes when you see the news, you just don't know what to believe, right?
Yeah.
Like you don't know if like what this person's saying is right. Like you don't know if it's just a TikTok montage or whatever. Like you just never know. But obviously, you and I were in communication, and so I know that like you guys were being shot at for how many days do you think?
Well, that was towards the south, but like I think the perspective that really needs to be heard is like Israel's a very small country.
Right.
It's not big.
Yeah.
Like you could fit it in the state of Florida.
Yeah.
Like from where I was to Tel Aviv, maybe 45 minutes with
Even
good traffic.
Even Florida might not be a good example because Florida's a beast of a state.
Yeah, Florida is a beast of a state.
It's I mean, I think of like Carolina. Carolina is like I can get from one side to the other in 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
Like
so like from me to Tel Aviv is like 45 minutes. From me to Ashdod and Ashkelon and even the Gaza Strip, that's probably like an hour and a half, 2 hours. So like Tampa to Orlando. And so it's not a very big country. So what you don't see, you hear. Like you can still hear things that are going on because it's also very mountainous and like you can hear echoes. And so like we were hearing jets, we were like we had drones around the apartment. Like we were hearing all of these things, even though we weren't like physically seeing it happen. And because like things are unfolding, we don't know what's happening outside the door of our apartment.
Right.
We just know we're inside of our apartment and this is where we're at in this moment. And so Miss Linda got us together. And so
you don't know who to trust, I'm sure.
Yeah, especially
like
now that you discover IDF, like
and
that world.
So that flipped a switch. And we also like, we don't know what information's true. We don't know information's not. So like, we're like, we go to the internet, of course, like, because we're like trying to find news sources of like, who's posting, like who's, what's
actually happening. Yeah.
Because like we don't, all we know is that there's incoming, we're in a bomb shelter and we don't know what to expect.
Wow.
And so we have this lull probably around 10:30 in the morning and like 15-30 minutes long. And I literally, how Africa prepares you, like I literally had to go up to my bedroom and my bathroom, pack all of my essentials, like 2 outfits, vitamins for 7 days, like my necessities, like my computer, my phone, my chargers, my power.
Yeah, you're just
bare necessities because everything else can be replaced. And I went down and put myself in the bomb shelter and I went back up on to the main floor and Miss Linda was like, wow, you're so fast. And I was like, girl, like I've had to live with bare necessities before. So I knew what to pack and I knew how to dress.
Which was not you.
Which was, I would have never known to do those things if I had not gone through what I had already gone through. And as I put everything in the bomb shelter, the girls are still getting their stuff ready. Miss Linda's making breakfast. She's still making her French toast because she's still a mom and she's taking care of her little chickadees. Like she's just making sure we're good and fed. And I looked at Miss Linda and I was like, hey, Miss Linda, do you think I can unlock the balcony door so I can just sit outside for 5 minutes? Like just 5 minutes. She was like, yeah, just go sneak 5 minutes and then come back inside. And I sit on the balcony door and I remember looking at everything and there's like these black puffs of smoke on the Mount of Olives from where the Iron Dome had gone off. And just, I'm like, you're in this like weird reality in this weird space of mind. And, I remember like I was holding my Bible and all of a sudden I get the notification from Homefront because I had downloaded the app at that point because the Wi-Fi was better upstairs. And I got a notification from Homefront of incoming. and I didn't hear a siren yet. And I was like, that's weird. And the siren goes off. And as I see this and the siren goes off and I look up, I see missiles being intercepted. And it's like black puffs of smoke, like across the skyline. And I run inside and I'm like, Miss Linda, we have to go. It's us. It's right outside. Like we got to go downstairs to the bomb shelter. And so she's like, okay, I'm coming. And so she motions towards me. And so I start walking down the stairs and I get to the bomb shelter. She was not behind me. And Crystal looks at me because we're sitting in the bomb shelter and she's like, where's Linda? And all of a sudden this big boom, like that shook our apartment happened. And we all yell, Linda. And Crystal runs back upstairs to get to Linda. And like 2 seconds later, here comes Crystal and Linda.
With the French toast?
With the French toast.
Jeez. Okay.
I was like, this mom.
Linda, if you do this again.
Because those are the things that make hard moments like that warm.
Yeah.
That was our saving grace. Like we know the reality that happened that day. We know the mass murder. But that was like our one moment from that day that Miss Linda gifted to us of like semi-normalcy. And we get into the bomb shelter and we just start praying and petitioning and we start worshiping and we just start praying some more and just talking through everything. And that was the moment that I sent those texts when I realized what was actually happening, when we were getting more information and we were actually to realize what was happening. That's when I sent the I love you text. And it was around 1 o'clock.
Which, by the way, when I got your text, I still didn't know what was going on.
No one did. No one knew. Like Joey, like the States wakes up around like probably 2:30, anywhere between 2 and 4 o'clock for us.
Wait, quick question for you. So what is the time difference between the United States and Israel?
So it's 7 hours.
7 hours. Okay.
Wow.
So we're 7 hours ahead. So when it's 3 o'clock there, oh crap, I'm gonna have to do math. I hate math.
3 o'clock there.
So it's 3 noon,
it's
4
8.
hours, it's 8 a.m. So around like that 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock a.m. stateside, like we're 3 o'clock.
And you've already gone through bombings.
Hours.
Yeah. Like
hours of being bombed in a bomb shelter, hours of going upstairs, going downstairs. Like,
so I was going to ask you that. Are you like leaving the bomb shelter or are you like?
So once we were in, we were in.
Okay.
But around 1 o'clock, the government officials had gathered together to evaluate because it was Shabbat. And so Shabbat from sundown on Friday to sundown on Saturday, it's a day of rest, like for the whole nation. And so,
which is probably super intentional, right?
It was.
Yeah.
It was super intentional because officers that were normally,
they're not there.
They're not there.
Yeah.
Because it's Shabbat. And so there was like this delay to get people together to start going in and warring off what came in. It was so like when you really dive deep into it, it was so methodically planned.
Well, and two, like, again, you know, I want to let people listening as well that I want to kind of throw this ahead of time because we're going to record a third episode and kind of talk about a little bit more of like the worldview and just like some of your like thoughts in regards to like being there in Palestine and like in Israel and all that stuff. We want to discuss that. And so the first thing I want to say is we are not discounting that they're suffering on both sides, right? And so
like from the jump, like I will, being someone who is there, because I think that's huge too for it to come out of my mouth.
Yep.
Like I pray for both sides. Like I don't like
you're praying for the border that is like shooting like missiles at you.
Yeah.
You're like praying for them. And I think that's important to note because, well, actually we'll get to the heart of like people on sites and stuff like that. But I just like, for example, like one thing that like to consider is that like Israel was being shot at missile wise for a long period of time, right? So like it isn't just a ground attack. It isn't, although a lot of people died because of the ground attack. A lot of people were like butchered and slaughtered.
Which is something that really, whenever it first happened, I had no idea. I had no idea that there was stuff going on the ground too.
Yeah.
All you really, at least based off the news, all I saw was that there were missiles being shot at Israel again, and like, you know,
which
from
is
this
not
and like
news,
right?
Which is
that's
not
why
anything
I said,
new.
Again,
That's why no one really knew.
Like
they were like, "Why is this big news?" And it's because there was a ground assault that
was a secretive ground assault.
Didn't really, it was secret. Like
Yeah.
they made it through the border. They came across. Like there was a lot of things that were happening that people didn't even realize.
So what are here? So take us back to Saturday. So you're being shot at for a few hours. You're sending that "I love you" text, and I know us like being here is like a big part of that. But like continue to give us context as to like your experience there, right? So you're getting shot at, and then like and so you said government officials got together and were discussing.
Yeah. So
sorry.
Our part of the nation. So in Jerusalem, we didn't know what we were hearing. We didn't have people, like there were terrorists in our area, but it wasn't like the mass murder that happened down south.
Which I was going to say, where was the main spot that they were?
That was on the Gaza Strip.
Okay.
Like that was like your Ashdod, your kibbutzes, like that was down south.
We'll put a map over here. We'll put a map on here.
Yeah.
On the clip.
You're going to have to figure that out. I don't know how to do this.
Like Ashdod and Ashkelon, those cities that surround that strip that were like the 5, 10, 15, 20, 30-minute drives from that border. That's where a lot of the worst of the worst of the worst happened. And because like I was beyond that time frame, it took longer for them to get to Jerusalem. And so we were able to come out at 1:00.
Okay.
We had the leftover French toast that didn't make it downstairs. And we sat and we took a deep breath. And Miss Linda went back to her apartment to sleep because at that moment when the government was meeting, there was not peace, but there was a hush.
Was there a ceasefire at that point? Like on both sides or no? It was
No, because people were still being butchered on the
right.
street.
That's
there
what I
was
was
still terrorists in the nation.
Okay.
It wasn't under control.
Yeah. Like
for
now.
us,
Yeah.
like in Jerusalem, like it felt like a cease, but that's why I call it a hush, because it wasn't a ceasefire. Like we still had sirens that were coming and everything, but because like Jerusalem was so far out, like we didn't get as much as like Tel Aviv got or further south. And
which, by the way, I wonder how much people like consider that like Israel is not a purely Jewish like occupied state. Like there's you have people of all different faiths, including Muslim.
And that's the thing.
Majority
it's
of Muslim.
So many like Israel has so many different faiths. There are dominant ones. But it's so encompassed of different faiths because like you can't just say someone's Jewish. Like you walk down the street, there's different variations of the Jewish faith.
Just of the Jewish faith.
There's different variations of the Muslim faith. And like you can tell by how they dress their variation. And so there's people of the Christian faith. There's people of a Buddhist faith. There's people that are secular and don't have faith. Like it's such wide.
So everybody's being shot at.
Everyone.
Yeah.
There's no one
discrimination.
Like like
the missile had no discrimination.
Right.
No,
nothing,
like
nothing.
it was just a complete landmass because like even the music festival that was happening down by the border, like a lot of those people at the music festival were from like Germany or Ukraine or like different Australia, like people that had come in to like have fun. And I think it was,
which is where the strip was.
It was right, like it was right near it. And
I did not know that. Wow.
It was, it was out in the middle of the desert. And so many of those people just unsuspecting, like they're at a music concert, guys.
Wow. Yep.
Like we go to music concerts all the time. Like they're at a music concert, just wanting to celebrate life, be with their friends and have fun. And now out of nowhere, they're getting attacked. There's people on gliders that are coming in. There's people on the ground coming in, people on trucks coming in, and like they're running for their life and safety. And I remember the moment it really hit me was when my Uncle Johnny texted me back when the States woke up, and he texted me back, and all he said was, "I love you so much." Like that was it. And that's when I realized he had seen the news and the planes going down. Like it was a reality. Like a part of me realized like, I wasn't in an area that was right up front on the lines, but because we didn't know what was going on, at any moment, could have been me.
Mm-hmm.
Like I could have been somewhere else and had to face that horrid, evil.
Well, and like, I mean, I've never had to run into a bomb shelter.
Yeah.
I've never had to listen to a siren of missiles coming in. And like, this is like just an example of like the brokenness and like the terror and the horror of just the life that the world that we live in, you know. I think
the humanity, like that, like the thought of that a nation has, number one, an Iron Dome, to protect, because they get shot at from missiles
all the time.
So the people of Israel are like, so we're going to create this thing just because we always get shot at.
Do you know?
We're going to put sirens throughout. We're going to make an app.
And
We're going to
not just that. It is now like all homes in Israel that are being built have to.
Have a bomb shelter.
Required
to have a bomb shelter.
Have a bomb shelter. Like you have to have it. You can't build a home without it now.
Florida's hurricane.
And so
like that's what it's like so funny. I'm like, so Florida's like, some storm may one day hit us, right? Well, Israel, another nation, is like, no, we literally get bombed so much. We get attacked so much.
They have to protect their people.
We have to protect
the unrest.
It's just,
and again, we're going to talk, because I was asking you some of the other side, so quote unquote side. I don't really think they need to be sides. I think that just having perspective to like see, what's happening at a higher level is important. But, we were talking about the Palestinian, and we're going to talk about this in the next episode, right? Like the fact that it's not just people in Israel who know this reality, that know the reality of being shot at, being, having missiles thrown at them, where, there's death and explosions and limbs missing and all that stuff. Like I grew up in a country, and like when I was looking at that, I was like, what's crazy to me is how reality is different for everybody based on where they live. Right. And so, my mom grew up with bullet holes on the wall, because the guerrilla in the army will get into like, the army's trying to get rid of the guerrilla in the midst of the country, in the midst of the mountains. And so they would get into these bullet fights, and people in their houses are laying with their tummy on the floor, hoping that they don't get shot,
Bro, I grew up in Miami and that happened.
Right. Like, well, and that's like gangs and stuff like that.
Yeah, I remember the night, like, we had a gang come into our front yard, and it was some like gang initiation that was common, because when we called the cops, like they threw it off, like, this is a common thing.
Yeah.
And
welcome to the neighborhood,
my
Megan.
mom is literally like pulling us out of our beds and laying on top of us on our house, like in our own home in Miami, like Miami, Florida. And so for these people, it's so normal for this to happen.
Like in Colombia, if you see a car parked somewhere for longer than a certain amount of time, people think it's a car bomb.
Yeah.
And that's just like common. It's like it's weird how culturally, depending on where you live, there is like a shared knowledge about, right? Like Israel has an app for missiles coming in.
Yeah.
Like
so we had the Homefront app, and we also had the Red Alert app. So Red Alert isn't like, it doesn't tell you like there's an incoming, that's a Homefront job. Red Alert just tells you about the incoming throughout the nation. And so I literally,
like the ground attack, you mean? Like
so
or just threats.
No, just incoming missiles, incoming rockets
on this area, right?
Yeah.
Like they're hitting this space.
So like I would get a notification for when Tel Aviv was getting incoming, or Ashdod or Ashkelon, like those were the really common ones, or Beersheba, like Tiberias, like all those different areas that were close to the southern border. Like Red Alert notifies you. And so one of my friends texted me one time. She was like, how's everything going? And I was just at the place mentally where I was like, you know what, here. And I like screen recorded my phone and just scrolled, like literally scrolled through like notifications.
Hey, give us that video. Give us that video and we'll put it on here as well. So that people can see
of just like all the incoming missiles.
Just scroll like this.
Yeah, like this, so literally.
And then we're gonna
like
put
this.
Oh my gosh!
No, because and the reason why I say that is because, like, again, I was getting this stuff from you, and so it just like everything. You know how like we live in a time where the moment something happens, you feel the pressure to take a side. Period. No matter how much you know.
Yeah.
No matter how much you like have previous knowledge about the issue or historical knowledge about the issue, or you've been personally affected by the issue.
That was such a big thing for me. Like the moment I finally had a pause, like I sat down and did my research. Like that was the first thing I knew I needed to do, because I knew what I had just experienced, and I knew where my heart was already leaning, because I'm like, like I didn't die, but like that could, the thought that it could have been. And like the moment I think that hit me the most was I was watching our CEO's kids, who was 2 years old and 7 months. And we had already had a siren that day. And so the office is on the 21st floor of the building, and the bomb shelter is in the bathroom on the 21st floor. So it's like, in my mind, I'm like, number one, how's this going to save me? And number two, this is very 9/11-esque about like everything, all the visions that are coming in my head.
This is not
like,
gonna, this is not gonna be nice.
And so we're all running into this bathroom, and the 2-year-old was still with us at the time. So he's in the bathroom with us, and I'm seeing this little boy who has no idea what's going on. Yeah. And we come out and we see like the different puffs of smoke of where the Iron Dome went off and everything. And I remember that was the moment that like I felt my body physically shake. Like I had been so steady through October 7th, but this was actually a couple days later. And that day after that first siren run off, I walked down to their home and was watching their 2 little boys so that they could be in office. Like they needed to be a staff. And I knew as like just being there, like I needed to support them however I could, because I didn't know the conversations that needed to be had. Like, even though I was new, like this was not the time to learn. This was not the time to be like,
to pick up a cape and try to like solve problems.
Hey, like I want to help. Like send me, what can I do? Like, no. Like give me the unnecessary jobs that are like burdening your plate. Like let it fall.
Which obviously kids are not unnecessary, and I know you're not meaning that in any level form. I defend you in that because I know what you're saying.
But kids are a burden and a blessing.
Yes.
And that's what I mean. Like, like
because they have
their babies, they have their schedule
and their needs and their requirements.
For mom and dad to function and to make sure the staff
for a ministry that is giant,
and not just that, like
that provides for many people's families.
A ministry
in Israel, like
that
there's so much
needs to evaluate what's going on with their local partners, especially their local partners down south. What's the need? How can we serve? Like when you have 2 babies at home, like that's any parent that works, that's a difficult situation to like, do I take my child to the office? Well, I can't take my child to the office because like they're going to need me and I'm not going to be able to have all these meetings. And like there was some small detail things like communications department and things that I just helped with because they were time consuming for the staff. And I knew as an individual, like this was not like myself aside, like if I needed to be a support system. And that was when I remember walking into the office and one of the staff members that came in that Sunday, the next day, like I saw it in his eyes.
Okay. Before you say that, because you're going to get into the personal experience of the people that you met in Israel with this whole thing. But I want you to share with us, and I want you to when you finish responding this, go back to that moment because I want you to share it. I want you to tell us, because you shared this with me, what the instruction was for you. So I want to paraphrase the picture. So you get bombed October 7th, then you still have to go into the office. Like there are days where you still have to go to work, and you were giving specific instruction as to how to act wisely in the midst of everything that was going on. So please.
And the government made a decision on October 7th, some things.
So October 7th, they made a decision, and October 8th was the official declaration of war. So I decided, usually like, I feel like my old self, the old Megan that I used to know easily would have fallen back to this, like the crap just hit the fan. Peace out, bro. Like I'm
gonna go grab a plane.
I'm out. Like I'm out.
I think most people would.
I'm flying home. Like this, I'm just not cut out for this. Like I can't do this. But I stayed. Like what it felt like for me was like I was standing in the center of a tornado. But I knew if I made a wrong decision or allowed my emotions to lead, I was gonna get swept up really fast. And so I took a pause and I went into the office, because what I would normally do in crisis if I was in the States was I would go to home to my Wellspring family. Like I would go to community. And so I knew after a day of war, I need my people. I need my core people. And they were people I just met, but they were still people I trusted.
Right.
And I knew that they cared about me.
Right.
So I went into the office And literally we sit down for staff prayer and everything flips. Like the whole, like you talk about God clearing the table, God cleared the table. And now the ministry is in like self-evaluation of like, we need to get with our local partners. How can we help? How can we serve? Like what's going on? Let's evaluate, do this big evaluation. And so I was originally there to do tours. And so I was tasked with calling churches to see like, hey guys, like, are you still interested in coming? Because we didn't know that it was like war. Like Israel's gone to war before and it's been like 11 days or like a week or so. And so like these conflicts are so common. They're like, let's not give up hope. Let's not cancel anything yet.
It's just so crazy to my thought process in that literally like a nation is just like, yeah, you know, war's just common. You know, when our generation in the States, like we're like, you know, okay, we can think of the, you know, Iraqi war. We can think of like certain, like,
but we've never seen it here.
Like, yeah, but I've never, right. But it's still never been on this land.
No, we just know the people that have been sent.
Like, yeah, we have friends that are gone. We have people that have served, like, you know, these things, but it's never been in the backyard of our home in a place that is 2 to 3 hours wide. Like even if there was something that happened in California, right? Like if something happened in California right now, Florida would be like, holy crap, that's our nation. But at the same time,
hours
Florida,
and hours and hours away.
It's literally, and you're like, oh, well, that doesn't really affect me. But in this place, in this nation, you would feel the south border, and you're in like the middle, right? Like kind of the middle S.
I would say like upper, like southern borders down here. Like you go north to Tel Aviv, and Tel Aviv's like across, or Jerusalem's like across, like a little north and across.
Okay.
So
there's
north,
like middle, like it's a very interesting.
Do you mean northeast?
Yeah. You
guys need some help with direction.
Well, again, it's really hard when I don't see it. It's really hard to picture Israel right now.
I think we're seeing the 3 different levels of education here.
Left. Left, right, left.
I go with my left finger because this one makes the L. So it's so crazy, like the distance and how small the nation actually is, which puts it into perspective for people. Because like on a daily basis, like I would go to bed hearing jets. Like I would go on my balcony and see the drone patrols, like just going, and you see the police cars and you see the IDF down in the Kidron Valley, like.
So Meg, and so you're hearing these things. You have, you know, you are helping whichever way you can as a ministry partner. But how? So remind us of the instruction they gave you to go to work. Like what did that look like? Like what was the instruction?
So I was
specifically.
I ended up not calling churches because I'm pretty sure they communicated with us. But Melissa called them because she had the personal relationship with them. I didn't.
Right.
Which was like, it's really big. Like when you know and have a relationship with someone, like you're not going to send the intern to talk to them.
Especially like, during this moment.
And I had only been there 4 days.
So I've been here for 3 days. There's stuff happening. Do you still want to come?
No. And Firm is so relational, like so relational. Like Melissa knew it was her job. So I was given like their hello inbox of like helping answering emails that had kind of just like we had lived through what we lived through. And so like it just like no one was keeping up with it. And so I was like, give it to me. I have nothing. And then because Michael and Vanessa, like they really needed to be in the office, I was like, give me the boys. Like I babysit for a living. Like I've taken care of kids. I ran a kids ministry. Like I can do routines. I can do bottles. I can do nap times. Like
this is my stuff. Actually,
I was like, you were just giving me things that I know that I can do and help support. And so, literally the first day I started taking care of the boys was the day that siren went off during prayer. I walked down to their house. I was with them, and their youngest, 7-month-old, had just woken up from his nap. And this little boy smiles with his whole face. He, like him and his older brother, like became the joy. They became my grounding things during the war. Like they were so just not oblivious, but like they don't know that a war is going. Like it's the innocence.
Literally innocence.
And so I had literally just woken him up from his nap, finished changing his diaper, buttoned his last button on his onesie, and a siren goes off.
And you're by yourself with their kids, right? Or were you?
Casey had another staff member had just come home.
Okay.
Because she was staying with them. Because she's also from the States, and she had just come home.
Mm-hmm.
And
So it's both of you guys with somebody else's kids.
she was on the staff meeting call, and I put Azariah to watch a movie so that I could get Hananiah, and Hananiah, like the siren goes off. I'm on the 3rd floor, and the main levels where Azariah is at, and the bomb shelter is down. And so I pick up the 7-month-old baby, and I'm holding him.
How many seconds did you have?
45.
45.
Run down the stairs. And I yell for Casey, Casey, do you have him or have Azariah? And she's like, yeah, I got him. So she grabs Azariah. That she's already heading down the stairs because I'm still walking down my staircase.
You're still on the 3rd story.
And so I go down, and then I go down again and curve down the last flight, and we get into the bomb shelter, and there's no handle on the door. So I'm literally like holding it with my leg, holding the baby, and like Azariah is with Casey, and like we're hearing the things happen. Like we're hearing the Iron Dome, we're hearing everything being intercepted, and there was about 3 that we heard.
How many days after October 7th was this?
This was Monday.
So this was
it's
3 days.
2 days.
Yeah,
2
2
days.
days. Yeah.
And so that was that. It didn't break me in that moment. Like it was such an honor to protect someone else's child. Like I would have done anything for those children. Like that's just who I am. Like I will protect your kids, like no matter what, when they're in my stay. And for that moment, like you're holding a 7-month-old baby, and just the innocence, but also hearing the things that are going on. And I went home that night. It was funny because I accidentally leaned against the door too hard, so it shut. And no handle. But I found the handle in the corner. I found the handle in the corner of the room. And Hey,
did you get my kids in the bomb shelter?
Yep.
No.
Sure did.
by the way, I actually have to go to the bathroom, and I shut the door and there's no handle. So if you could please come save us and figure out how to get us out. No, I found the handle in the corner on this like shelf thing. And I pulled it and I put it, and I like got it in there enough to like get it open. Yeah. And so I got us back out. Which is just hilarious because I was like, of course we.
I mean, we're safe. We're safe
we're
now.
Permanently
safe.
So we get out and we have dinner, which is normal. And I take a cab home. My cab gets lost, and there's a language barrier. And he's speaking Arabic. I don't even know Hebrew yet because I had just been like, and I still don't know Hebrew. Like, I'm not gonna.
Yeah, Hebrew is a tough language.
I don't know Hebrew yet. Yeah. Girl, you still don't know Hebrew.
Yeah, I'm very realistic. Like, I want to, but it's just not there yet. And so that was like kind of terrifying because I ended up on like not a bad part, but like a part that I didn't know. And there was a lot of things going on in the streets, and there was a lot of people, and there was a lot of soldiers, and there was a lot of guns, and I'm like, where? Like, and he's like, here's your stop. And I'm like, no, it's not.
And at this point, they're telling you that you need to be like safe out in the street, like as a woman, really just as a person there. What were they telling you to do that was the right thing to do?
So that cab ride home was like a reality.
And you had no one with you.
No one with me at that time. No.
Okay.
So it was just me, and I made it back to my apartment, and that was the night that I literally just cried my eyes out. And so
Monday.
Yeah. The reality of war had hit. It finally sunk, but nothing in my spirit told me to go.
Like to leave, to come back to the US.
To come back to the US. And so I talked with Melissa because she had that conversation with me of like, are you okay? Like, do you want to stay? Do you want to go home? Like, where are you at with things? And I was like, I could go, but I'm going to stay. Like, I'm going to honor my commitment and stay.
This is loyalty.
My loyalty and do whatever I can do to serve. And so at this point, the war is going on. We know that it's not safe. So I actually go stay with Melissa for about a week.
That one piece of hair loves you.
It's a great haircut. You all should get it.
Don't tempt me.
So
keep going.
So
I'm going to edit the hair out of your head and put it on Joey for the video.
So Melissa's like, well, don't be walking. Like Melissa, she was in the Navy, and so she's very kind of like straightforward.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So she's like, don't allow people to instill fear in you where there's not fear needed. She was like, we fear the Lord, we don't fear the world. Like, she's like strong man to her core. Like, her and I are actually a lot alike, and it was actually kind of scary how like we are.
So, but she told you what? She told you like when you were out, what?
So stay in twos if I can, but if not, like just be knowledgeable in my surroundings. Like I do Brazilian jiu-jitsu, like self-defense is my life. Like I'm very passionate about it. So like I know how to clock my 12, 3, 6, and 9 and like just be aware of my surroundings. And public transportation was kind of like hit or miss at that point. So that's why I moved closer to the office and everything, so I could be in walking distance, because there was things happening in public transportation.
Right.
Not in our area, but like.
But it's still happening.
But it's still happening, so we can't like really take that chance. And so
because, and I want to just bring a little bit of clarity, because I know you like people don't know this, but like it's essentially what's going on, guys. As Megan is like telling me that these things are happening, is that the people living in Israel are still in high alert about the people that came over the border to that they were like raping people, killing people, and they were still out and about, and people didn't know who was what.
Yeah, you didn't know who to trust.
So the reason that's why I was asking you that question. You know, you're going about your normal business to go and to work, but you're having to be mindful about the fact that there are people posing and just trying to hurt people. Like, period.
So, and that's the thing, because when I was out post-war, it was a ghost town. Jerusalem's one of the busiest cities.
Yeah, tourism and just all that. Yeah,
and like when the day after October 7th, like Daphne came to pick me up, and we picked up Melissa, and we went to the office. It was literally like us 3 and maybe 4 other people on the street.
Crazy.
Like what was usually busy streets with trains and buses and cars and taxis and everything.
Silent.
It was silent. It was so somber. Like every store was shut. Every store was closed. And this is like the first week back. And it was like this for like the first week. Just like barely any people, anything. And so we were told to like stay in twos, like don't be by yourself, like just be aware if you are by yourself and be safe. And so like I would send Melissa my active location if I ever walked anywhere, or like went to the grocery store or grabbed dinner, just because like, there was one night where I got home from the office and I was so exhausted. I just didn't feel like cooking. So I was still in the city center. And so I was like, you know what? it's late. I know it's dark. I'm just going to run out real quick and grab a meal. And where I had walked, I got lost, because me and directions, man, like it's just, we're not good friends at all. Like someone needs to put an Apple tag on me.
On you?
Like,
can you imagine if like the red alert app was like, please move west. They're gonna be like,
Megan,
sit here. I'm
Megan, you're left.
I know
Megan,
left, but I don't know west.
It literally pings you, Megan. It's on your left. Okay, thanks.
Yeah. So I ended up in a situation where there was a lot more IDF soldiers and cops than normal, and there were still people out, but it was like barely. And like there's something in my stomach that was just like, you're not supposed to be here. You need to go back and take the wrong turn again and get back to where you were. And I did. And I ended up at this pizza shop and I got some pizza and like went home. And the next news alert that I get on my phone is 2 officers had been attacked by terrorists at the Jaffa police station. And that was like 2 to 5 minutes from where I ended up when I got lost.
Wow.
And my timing was like, it had just happened. And I was like, if I did not lean into that Holy Spirit's leading.
Which is this thing, like in this, there's a reason I asked that question, Megan, is because the way an enemy looks is, can be so many different ways, right? So like
I think everyone has a picture of an enemy in their head.
Well, yes. But I feel like there are levels of evil, right? So like, just so hear me out for a minute. So, you know, we've talked about, and we might not have a 3rd episode because you got to go. And so let's hit on this for a little bit here. So there is so much suffering. There has been, and there is so much suffering in that area of the Middle East with Israel and just all the countries surrounding it, and just the fight over this land for generations and generations, and it's just like never ending. Like there's just like so much that it has been unresolved, and it's probably going to remain unresolved.
Right. I mean,
the word Jesus comes back,
says
right?
it. The word literally says it. So
that's the case. So I think we can all agree and nod our heads and just like say yes and amen when I say, like, what a horrible thing that is going on, period. Like, that has gone on with Israel, that is going on in Gaza right now with the people of Palestine dying at the hands of missiles and shots. And the IDF is over there, of course, because, and there's obviously the information is so convoluted. So we could stay here for a generation talking about what's actually happening, right? But the point I wanted to make is that it's very different to have an enemy who is out just trying to create as much suffering as possible than like two armies meeting each other and people dying in the crossfire. And I'm not saying one is better or the other. I'm just saying it just looks very different, right? Like, so I'll give you an example. I'm going to tell you something that kind of not relates. Yes, relates. It kind of looks similar to what's going on over there that I experienced growing up. So in Colombia, people getting abducted was just a part of growing up. Like, that was like if you were traveling from Tampa to Orlando and there was like a police like stoppage where the police was checking to see if there were criminals or not, you didn't know if they were IDF, right? So you didn't know if they were the guerrilla, you didn't know if they were the army, and you were always on high alert, and you never knew if you were next to get abducted. Okay, so it's really crazy, and the reason why I see this is this whole thing a little bit different is because I grew up with some of these variables that like most countries don't grow up with, like getting abducted, like asking for ransom, like people being kept in like the wilderness or being kept away from their families, like all that stuff. Like that is stuff that I'm very acquainted with. You don't know this, Joey, but like actually when this was probably a few decades ago, one of my uncles worked at the court, like the main court of Colombia. What do you call the high, not the high court, but what do you call it in the United States? Supreme Court, like the Supreme Court of Colombia. He worked there. He was an attorney there, and the guerrilla took over the Supreme Court and took a bunch of hostages and became a hostage situation. And in the process, the army of Colombia is having to deal with the fact that one of their main branches of power has been taken over by a terrorist organization, yet they have innocent people in there who they can't blow out. Well, the way everything ended, and you can look this up, it's called, and I can put a link on here, it's called El Palacio de Justicia in Colombia. Yeah. And the story is they sent in a bunch of like army and people to like flush these people out, and this thing was set on fire by the rebels, and everybody died, including my uncle, right? Like everybody died in there. Wow. And so it became this thing of like, who is going to, like, what is the right thing to do, right? Do we go in and blast through and get these people out, and whoever dies, and it's like, we look at that today, and it was really, really hard for like my grandma. Was my grandma's brother, and it was like really hard to watch. Like, this is on TV. This building is burning to the ground, and everybody is like knows like these people that we love are in there.
Yeah,
but what I'm trying to say is that there is no easy way.
No,
you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, so when I see like the whole like abducting of people, like, taken to Palestine, and like, and I see, and I was telling this to my wife, or I think it was my mom yesterday. I was like, man, like, if you're really angry at somebody, and I understand like there's power differences and all that stuff. So you know what? I'm ignorant too. Like, there's a lot of this probably that I just don't know. But like, if you have a qualm with somebody, just like go face them out in a field and like see who wins, and like die at the sword.
You're talking about
what
old
I'm saying?
like revolutionary
right. But like, when I grew up with a group of people hiding behind civilians. I grew up with that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I grew up with what it's like with like a group of people with weapons and like with all that stuff that are not facing a power face to face, but they're in the trenches in the, you know what I'm saying? You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of that scripture where it says, don't pull the weeds out like too early. You know, it comes to like the end of the end of the world, because if you pull out the weeds, you're going to pull out the good wheat as well. And it's like, that's what
the word says, let them grow up together.
Let them grow together and let them get
them.
sorted out later. And the reason why I say that is because that's just like, it's so sad to see that happen. It's so sad to see like people who are violent, regardless of which side it's on, abduct people and like be in the midst of other people who are innocent, and then innocent people are dying, and like how these decisions are not easy for nations to make. And it's like, it's just so sad to watch. And so I want to ask you this. I'm sorry, I just went on a whole rant there, but I just wanted to give a little bit of context in regards to like just some of my experience, because I just see that different, you know, like I see like everything that's happening different. But
I think it just boils down to, if you boiled everything down to, it's the wickedness of us as humanity, of how much we need. Every person in this place needs salvation. That every single, like, it comes from Cain and Abel, like from that point, like there is, and then from the division between brothers, which is Israel, like these moments, the moments of wickedness, the moments of the corruption, the moments of sin revealing itself. Sin will always breed death, too, right? Well, it's just that this place, we will never have genuine peace. And so every person in this place we're continuing to fight for a picture that we think is peaceful. So one side is thinking this land is mine. This side is thinking this land is mine. This state says this is mine. Again, even in the States, like we took this land,
and then there are people on both sides with no weapons, right? With no desire for more land. Like people in Gaza, Palestinian people who are not actively trying to fight anybody. And this is another part that like I don't know, and like, you know, I always want to be very direct when I just don't know something, right? But like I know that there has been like historically like just this conflict between like the Jewish state and like Palestinian state, and like Palestinian people feeling like they're being like mistreated by the Israelite people. And I'll be the first one to say, I just don't know the depth of that.
Well, the depth is actually in the word.
Well,
the word is
from the word. And let's pause for a second. And let me say this, Joey. Like the word, I get the word. I get the word. But I think that sometimes like having the conversation of what like of the real experience of people, you know what I'm saying?
Here's the deal with this, because like, do you see how you two are going back and forth? And like, there's so many questions, but your questions are being met with questions, and those questions are being met with more questions. That's the misunderstanding.
Snowball.
That's everyone right now. That's everyone. And that's when I came back, I'm going to be honest with you. I was so infuriated. Like I was angry because like I had friends that were just saying free Palestine to free Palestine. And they were making comments to me because I was in Israel that I could tell they had no sense of what was actually happening, what was actually going on, like the history of everything. And I know.
I just want to ask you a question. I was going to ask you about your experience, because about like not knowing what's happening, right? So like I want to ask you this question because I think in a lot of people's minds, IDF is just a strong force just going out and trying to kill as many people like over in Palestine and Gaza as possible. But you had an experience, and I want to go back to the eyes of that man that you saw in the office, and like some of like the in-person like knowledge that you have of who was actually going out to be on the front lines to try to get some of these people back. So tell me about that, please.
So
you go to the office, see this guy.
I go to the office, and it's Sunday. It's the day after everything. And one of the staff members on staff, he comes in and he just sinks, like just one of those lanes that he just sinks against the door and the door frame of Melissa's office where her and I both are at. And she asked him like, how are your kids? And there's this deep longing in his eyes. And this man, who's incredible. Like I feel like he just became one of my mentors while I was there. He just invested so much into me. But in that moment, I had only known him for a couple of days, but he introduced himself by his kids. Like he was, hi, I'm so-and-so. Like these are my kids. Like you already met someone. Like these are my other two. And like, he was like, I'm so glad you're here. Those things. He sinks against the door. All three of his kids are in the IDF.
They were called up. They were drafted in.
So two were already in because they were that 18, like when you turn 18 after high school, like everyone gets drafted to serve for like 2 to 3 years. Wow. And so his two youngers were already in. and his oldest, who had just gotten out and had been out for a year, got called back in. So literally, like, it felt like I'm like, Lord, you didn't just take one, you took three. Like all three of his kids, all three of his babies that he raised into adults. But I will say, like, this family is definitely a special family. I pray for them every day. They're a special family in my heart. Because like the way that their kids rallied to keep pushing forward and to realize, like, so many generations before us have fought for this land, and now it's our turn. Like, it's our turn to go forward, to be the voice, the lion, to just fight for the Lord's people. Like, it's our turn. And when you have that mindset, I was in awe of his kids, and I was like, okay, I'm like praying for all three of them, because he has 2 boys and a girl. Like, it's not just like 3 sons.
I just this verse, I just thought about it as you were like, can you read this?
Yeah.
This is 1 Samuel 8:11, and it's just like, you know, as we sit in the midst of like hearing that, like, we just live in a time where people die in conflicts they are not even starting.
Yeah.
And so read that verse.
So
I want to give context. So this is what the Lord tells Israel when they are saying, we want a king.
Yeah.
We want a king. Give us a king. We want to be like every other nation. And what does it say?
So 1 Samuel chapter 8, verse 11, this is how a king will reign over you. Samuel said, the king will draft your sons and assign them to his chariots and his charioteers, making them run before his chariots. Yeah.
Yep.
And so, it wasn't just, he has 2 sons and a daughter. Like, his daughter, like, you know, like princesses, like, she's the youngest of the family. She's like me. Like, I'm the youngest of my family. So like, we're definitely princesses, the spoiled ones, but, all 3 of his kids got drafted into the IDF. Like, he's sending them forth to go fight for a nation that they're from the States. Like this is not their birth nation, but they're fighting for the Lord's people. And when you see, like, you could just see it in his eyes. Like, you saw,
I mean, that has nothing left.
The pride. He was so proud of his kids and ready to send them. But you saw the eyes of a father who yearned for his children to be under the roof of his safety. He was...
And no father wants to send his kids to go and take over a place. Like, no father wants to do that. No father is bloodthirsty enough to be like, yes, kids, go and win that land over because I want that.
We're human. Like I don't have the privilege yet to have my own kids, right? But if I had a son or a daughter, like, as a parent, I would be selfish. I would want my child to live their life as long as they could. And some of these parents that are sending their kids forth, they're not coming home. Like, there's fatalities on both sides. Like, when you look at the world, like, I try my best to look at the world through God's eyes, because I'm like, God, like, there's so many people picking sides. Like, it's free Palestine or pray for it. Like, but God, like, show me how you want me to stand in this midst. And so
how do you see with God's eyes now, as you were like there on ground zero and you saw the struggle between maybe not 2 nations, just the struggle? How do you see? You probably see way better than we see. So how do you see everything that is over there?
At times we like, and this is what's so hard for me. Like, it breaks my heart. Like, I get overwhelmed in emotion. I can get angry. I can get frustrated. And then I can swell up my fist at the king and be like, Lord, why is this happening to people?
Yeah.
And then literally I feel like the Lord at the same time looks at me. And then it's just like this thought of the word, because of sin.
Yeah.
Because of sin. Because of sin.
Exactly.
Because of sin. And I'm like, okay, that's why we need a savior. That's why you are always a pure. That
That's
is
why we have Jesus.
This is why eternity matters. This is why the picture of that this place is going to be purified. This is why, like, all of these things, like, it's almost like I'm like, God, why? How do we handle this situation? He's like, I'm the judge. Let me handle the situation. Now, how can we love people in this moment? How can we see people with the eyes of the Lord for both sides, for every side, even Russia and Ukraine? Like, just fill in the blank.
The war that was happening in the news before Israel, like, and now it's silent in the news,
right? Like left and right, like all these things. How can I see people, the children of the Lord, actually, I'll put it this way: the image of God. Everyone is made in the image of God. Not everyone is a child of God until they like are adopted into that kingship, right? Like into those positions. And so like those are little things. Okay, Lord, how do I see everyone as the image of God? Right? And then how can I love everyone to be able to, as you, Jesus, that as I was your enemy, you laid down your life for me, right? To love me as the people spit on you. You said, they do not know what they're doing.
Well,
like all these things,
that's
right?
how you know. That's when you know. And I was going to say this. I am very proud in moments like this to follow Jesus. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, I can tell, especially when life gets real like this, that his philosophy is the only philosophy that works. You know what I'm saying? Like, because all these other creeds and all these other religions, and I'm not afraid to hurt anybody's feelings. Are incited into violence towards one another over and over and over again. It never ends. This is just a never-ending cycle. Never-ending cycle.
It even happens in our own nation. Like, it's not on a war level, but like everyone has an opinion and everyone has a truth.
Well, because people identify themselves more with their tribe than with Jesus.
They're a nationalist,
you know what I'm
more
saying?
than a relationist.
And it's like, and I was gonna say that, like, it's one way in which we can
step on all this.
one way when we can have the right perspective. This is, I think, one skill we need to master is we need to stop grouping people together. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not the Palestinian people and the Jewish people and the, like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, all these people are individuals. And something that you said that is very important, you know, because sometimes you look at, so I'll say a few ideas or theories about what's going on, right? And nobody knows where to land. Okay. Okay. Hamas got together with the Iranian government, got trained up so that they could do this, so they could go flee into Gaza, so that Israel would respond, so that the surrounding nations would see some of their peace treaties with them and some of the plans that they had with them. And so it was planned out from the head of Hamas and the Iranian government and a lot of different things so that this would happen exactly how it's happening. Another side, the Jewish people in the Israeli state has wanted to have full control over Gaza for a long time anyway. And so this is the way in which the higher ups can go in there and actually blast everybody out and have their land right. And so sometimes as a person that is like on the ground, we're ground zero, or we're like just individual people who like have nothing to do with this. Sometimes you can go, who the heck can we believe? Right. So that's the first thing. But something that gives me great hope is that God knows the intentions of the heart. God knows every heart. And as you said, the Bible says that we are as if we were naked before him, because that's how without all the fluff he sees us, like he sees truly what we are. Right. And so
to our core,
And so when through it,
and he sees our future and our past. And so when the only one that can see at the situation clearly is God himself, because he can separate all the complexities and all the groupings of people and all that stuff. And so I go back to the idea I said, I'm very proud to follow Jesus in moments like this, because when situations like war happen, it is Christians, hopefully, and I mean really mature Christians. I don't mean the Christians that, you know, just again tie themselves up to a tribe and they USA, baby, you know, whatever. Like, it's not about that. It's about following Christ. He is the king, right? The Christians that follow Jesus like that are usually the ones, the light in the darkness, the hope to the hopeless in situations like this on both sides. The Christian churches in Gaza, the Palestinian people, the Christian churches in Israel, the Christian churches in Ukraine, the Christian churches in Russia. Like, these are usually the people that are the peacemakers. Blessed are the peacemakers, because we follow a king, and I'm so proud. Like I won't have to say this, and like some of you guys listening to this might not have a king, might not have a God you follow, and I'm just telling you right now, like this is a great example of why Jesus is the way. Like that his philosophy is the only philosophy that gets rid of all this crap that we see on the earth.
And let's be very clear. Yeshua is not a man that sits on the sidelines and just says, "Oh, I can't believe this war is going on." But he's also not the man that will be sitting idle. It's actually the first coming he brought peace, the salvation. And in Revelation speaks that when he's coming again, he is coming as king. And he is coming as king.
As king. And I want to point this out because we just read through Romans all the way. The Bible says that the true, and again, this is, I'm going to say something that's going to sound kind of, and it's a mystery. So it's hard to sift through this without like understanding that sometimes there are things that feel like they contradict each other, but they are both true. The Bible says that the true Israelites are those true descendants of Abraham are those who believe, right? They're descendants to him, not according to the flesh, but they're descendants of Abraham according to their faith. He was the first one to believe God and be counted as righteous because of his faith. And so now everybody who believes God is counted as righteous. And so the Israelite people are counted as people who believe. Yet Romans also talks about the Israelite people being the original branch that was on the tree, and how they're regathering, they're grafting into the plant is going to bring so much glory on the earth. And they're both, and they can be both. You know what I'm saying? Like both, you can live in the mystery of that. And so, what I have to say about that is that the true followers of God, the true heirs because when Jesus shows up. The Bible says he will show up to finish the war.
And it actually, this is the crazy, when you read the word, it says that the streets will be filled with blood.
Filled with blood. And he's going to open his mouth and things are just going to be set
like I ain't even going to lie. Like we were a couple weeks into the war and I was sitting on my balcony looking at the Mount of Olives and I was like, Lord, this seems pretty good. Like, are you going to split the mountain yet? Like
is this it? Hey, you're going to...
Like, is this the moment?
But what's crazy is how many other people have done that in the past generations. Hundreds
because it's not the first war. Because it's not the very first time.
It's not the first war. Like, we've gone through this so many times. And I think that's why I just...
Which there's a bunch of eschatology too about why things are happening the way, which is a completely different episode.
It is. That's a whole other conversation.
Google the red heifers.
Go red heifers. We already talked about that in another episode. But.
I think for me, like... I had to do more self introspection because like I know my sins
from your eye,
like the log.
Plank. It's actually the plank out of your eye.
The things that I've walked through.
The speck in the other person.
Let's let the woman talk.
Yeah.
I'm quoting scripture over here. Keep going.
So it happens when you have brothers in the room.
Yeah.
You never get a word in. But
you have to fight for your word.
All the time. But no, like for me, I had to do a lot of self-introspection.
That's so good.
Like I had to look at my own sin. Like I'm not someone who started a war.
Yes.
But I am someone who fights in a spiritual war. Like I walked through so much. Like I've walked the road of addiction. Like I've walked the road of pursuing love in all the wrong places. I've walked through trying to like find things that were soothing to fill a
the road
hole.
Of hate and bitterness.
So much hate and bitterness and anger towards people. Like I've walked the road of perfectionism and OCD. Like there is so much wrong that I've done in my own life. But who am I to cast a stone?
Come on.
Like out of
you're gonna make the whole thing fall. Now you're blocking her.
But who am I to cast a stone? Like I couldn't cast a stone at my father, and he was the one that abused me. Like.
Come on.
But there's no sin that's greater than the other sin. Like that's scriptural. Like, yes, he abused me and there were so many things. And I love how I just like I was
You're like, wow, I still need to get the plank out of my eye.
but it's an everyday walk with the
Yes.
Lord.
Yes.
And I think, and that's where I just got a little too excited, but it's an everyday walk with the Lord. I have to choose. I didn't like forgive my father and release him.
And then we're like, oh, this is
then
great.
be
I never have
fine.
to deal with this
like,
again.
There are like
Yep.
when my
Come
mom
on.
died,
Come on.
I wanted him to die instead of her.
Right.
Like, I'm just going to be blatantly
Yep.
honest.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, there are parents in Israel and parents in Gaza that want the other person to die instead of their child, instead of their brother,
Right.
instead of their father
Right.
and uncle and,
Right.
and mother and sibling. Like, because when we live in the reality of the physical, we lose everything that's temporary. Everything in life's temporary.
on.
Life is temporary. Finances are temporary.
Come on.
Control's temporary.
Come
Like
on.
everything is temporary.
Come on.
It's a fleeting moment. Like, what does the Lord say in the book of Psalms? Like,
We're
life-
withering grass.
yeah, like withering grass. Like the dew. Walk in the physical to follow the will that God has on my life, but I don't have to live with the purpose that He's put in my heart. Like I don't have to have purpose to be in there. Like, I'm actually, it's more dangerous for me to be outside of the will of God than in the will of God. And when I'm in the will of God, like, I have to forgive other people when I don't want to forgive them. I have to show them grace when I don't want to
that's
show
what
them
he told
grace.
you to do.
Come
Like,
on.
that is the call
It's
that
also what
He's
he
given
proved and
to all
showed.
of us.
Come
It's
on.
what, like, Jesus did that. He went all out of his way on his way to Jerusalem to go meet a Samaritan woman at a well, who then changed the life of her entire community
Come on.
because of one moment over a drink of water.
Well, and you got to think too, like, you got to think Jesus showed up to a people that were subjugated.
Yeah,
Yes.
And like when Jesus didn't show up to a
There was
nation
no
that was
borders
on
to
top.
Jesus.
Right.
There was no borders to Jesus. Like, there was no nations to Jesus. It was just his people, and it was his people that he loved.
Well,
And that he loved, and they were-
actually, you know what's crazy? Jesus, in one moment, he does say, "I was sent to my people." in
Yeah,
this
yeah,
time."
yeah. And that's
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that's
yeah,
for
yeah.
that's
He
for
does
that's
say
for a
that.
different that's for a
But
different
no,
part.
but what I mean by that, what I is what then does he say? She quotes something that a lot of people don't grab hold of. She actually quotes from the story from the Old Covenant, like from the Old Testament, where he says that even the dogs get the scraps. That's actually from the Old
Yeah.
Testament. That it's actually from the people group, the outer. There was the two spies that came in that said we can take the land. One was actually from the nation, and one was not from the nation.
Caleb, yeah,
Yes,
Caleb
and
was
so
not.
so
Yeah.
Caleb got the outer courts, and they were known as dogs. And so she's quoting that even the dogs get the scraps from the master's table.
Yeah.
She's actually quoting the old thing. And
But let's remain in the context of what we're talking about.
Yeah,
Like
it's
what
powerful.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say is that like we like Jesus came to a subjugated group of people to teach them how to be free in the midst of subjugation, which is
Yeah.
crazy to think about, right? Like, and he had a zealot, right? If you
Yeah.
think of zealot, like Judas the zealot was modern day Hamas, was modern day like Zionist, right? Like the people that are just like,
Yeah.
which I actually don't know exactly the definition of Zionist. So maybe let's say people that are extremists in their way of thinking to rid the other side, right? That's what a zealot was. And Jesus shows up and he teaches somebody like Judas the zealot, hey, listen, turn the other cheek.
Yeah.
Which is insane, right? He's teaching Peter, just go pay your taxes. It's like, and this is the way I see Jesus. It's like people were lost in these like fights we have and these wars we have that are over land and over who's on top and
It's
who's at the
so
bottom and who is like,
temporary.
and he was fighting like a far deeper, more important battle
Yeah.
where he's like, do you ever think about that? Like the creator of the world paid taxes to a man. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Like he'll be like, yeah, just pay him the tax. It's fine.
Yeah.
Like just,
Right.
and then it's like, just let him be. I
Yeah.
put him there anyway.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like he's, and I feel like
It's
that
the
is,
humility.
it's
it's the
meekness and authority and
It's
humility.
like-
And like, he's not
He
trying to prove anything.
He says, I
Jesus
laid
knew-
down my crown. All
Yeah.
authority. He knowing he had all authority. He then served.
Exactly. He humbled himself to become man, to become one of us, to live in the physical, knowing that everything around him was temporary, but he was trying to get his people to move beyond the temporary.
Let's go, girl. You better-
Here, can I? I'll keep going, but I better. Oof,
Okay, we
everything
gotta-
you're
okay,
saying.
so real quick.
I need to read this
Before you
because
read
this is
that,
from
actually,
today.
let's do this. Let's do
yeah.
this. Read that. And then I'm going to ask Megan one last question,
and
then we'll close out.
Okay, so what's funny is he told me of how much I treat Oswald Chambers as a mighty man.
Do you know how many books of Oswald Chambers this man has?
But listen. This is what's so beautiful. This is why the Lord why I believe God has at least for my life, the Lord speaks through Oswald a lot for me in the day. And this is why. This is 2 days.
The Lord speaks to me through the Holy Spirit.
Oh my gosh, shut up. This is from today's reading,
many
right?
different vessels.
And it says this, right? It's the consecration of spiritual power. And it's from Galatians 6:14. It says, by whom the world has been crucified to me and I to the world. And then he goes into it. If I dwell on the cross of Christ, I do not simply become inwardly devout and solely interested in my own holiness. I become strongly focused on Jesus Christ's interests. Our Lord was not recluse nor a fanatical holy man practicing self-denial. He did not physically cut himself off from society, but he was inwardly disconnected all the time. He was not aloof, but he lived in another world. In fact, he was so much in the common everyday world that the religious people of his day accused him of being a glutton and a drunkard. Yet our Lord never allowed anything to interfere with his concentration and consecration of spiritual power. It is not genuine consecration to think that we can refuse to be used of God now in order to store up our spiritual power for later use. That is a hopeless mistake. The Spirit of God has set a great many people free from their sin, yet they're experiencing no fullness in their lives, no true sense of freedom. The kind of religious life we see around the world today is entirely different from the vigorous holiness of the life of Jesus Christ. I do not pray that you should take them out of this world, but that you should keep them from the evil one. John 17, verse 15. We are to be in the world, but not of it, to be separately internally, not externally. John 17:16. We must never allow anything to interfere with the consecration of our spiritual power. Consecration, being dedicated to God's service, is our part. Sanctification, being set apart from sin and being made holy, is God's part. We must make deliberately determinations to be interested only in what God is interested in. The way to make that determination when faced with perplexing problems is to ask yourself, in this kind of thing in which Jesus Christ is interested? Or is it something in which the Spirit that is dynamically opposed to Jesus interested?
That's my entire reason why I stayed. I had every opportunity. I had every person offering me money. I'll be honest, on the daily basis, I'm not even gonna say weekly basis, daily basis, I would get 5 to 10 text messages from different people saying, are you insane? Like,
come on.
Where this is.
Can you say what I said? Because so whenever she was there, of course, this was such a deeply serious moment. Like I don't know if you're gonna come back. And so anytime you would call me, I just so I had to make things slide because I'm your brother.
Literally, I had 2 friends play the song "Firework" and have a dance party. While I was in my room.
I did not go that far.
I know, but I needed in that moment.
Oh my God.
No. Alejo.
And we're not being insensitive because people are going through this.
Yes,
but it's like you were in the midst of you might die. And so I was like, hey, do you need more attention? Like, what?
Do you need a hug? Did we not hug you enough?
Did we not hug you enough?
Like, did you have to go? Like,
it's just
like
light.
I had one friend ask me like, what did you do? Like, did you cut the wrong wire?
So you were all
they were like, you went there and this happened. And I was like, oh gosh, thanks.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I was the key player in this.
Yeah, it was definitely you.
No, so like I had people calling me and texting me saying, are you insane?
Wow.
This is irrational behavior. How can you do this to your family? Hasn't your family already been through so much? Like you need to come home. Like God is not in this. Like
Satan.
And I also had someone tell me like the Holy Spirit is telling me to tell you to come home. Like I had people using the Spirit.
Holy Spirit.
And
for a different conversation.
I know.
No, it's fine. I'm moving my mic on purpose.
Bear with me on this. And so I had people from the left and from the right of me, all around me. I had family members. I had people that I thought I trusted, and I still trust them. Like I still love them because I had to then put myself in their shoes. I'm daughter to some of these people.
Right.
I'm niece to some of these people. I'm sister to some of these people. Like they care for me so deeply. Like they just want
like
to
Peter
see me
cared for
safe.
Jesus.
Right.
they want to see me safe and they want me home.
Right.
And so I had to use truth and grace, but I was like, if the Lord has chosen me for such a time as this, then I am going to recklessly and irrationally love his people, and serve and humbly serve. Cause the job wasn't what I expected to do. It's not what I wanted to do.
Wait, that's not what you expected?
I did not. Yeah. Thanks for that. I didn't the one, I'll be honest.
Melissa, if you're watching this, how about next time you give Megan a better job description? For,
I'll be honest.
I'm joking,
the
Melissa.
one thing, because I babysit for a living as a part-time thing. The one thing I wanted to do when I went to Israel was not babysit. That was my main goal. And then to have kids.
God's so that's not what we
got him.
Yeah.
Okay. So real quick, Mex, just cause we're ending here, finish that thought. And then I want you to tell everybody what you're doing here. Just super briefly, what's happening.
So
you have 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It was hard to have those people come against you and you're like, no, God called me for such a time as this. He chose me. I have been through so much and these people are going through so much. I'm used to people leaving out of my life. I'm used to the rejection and abandonment, not on their scale, but I watched the people leave Israel and run. And when those people run, who stays? Who stays to continue pouring into his people, to the ones that are losing loved ones, to have people missing. And I've been praying for Mia, who was a hostage, and I wrote her name on my hand every single day. And we literally just got the news. I found the article or the response yesterday. She's home and in Israel. Wow. She was one of the hostages that was free. I'm getting chills because I've loved her. I've prayed for her. I have no idea who she is.
Right. And she doesn't know who you are.
And she doesn't know who I am, but I've been praying for her faithfully every single day. And to see her freed and with her family again, I know that's what my family wanted for me, to be home and safe. But I had a call of the Lord on my life. I didn't need to know why. I didn't need to have purpose. I just knew I had a call of the Lord.
Get the mic away from your face. She's talking.
Stop
it.
I want to quote scripture for you.
No, stop it. It
what
doesn't
the Lord
matter.
was doing.
She's finishing. We said 5 minutes. She's finishing.
So
control yourself. Self-control.
So I knew. Esther didn't know why she was picked as queen, but Esther still followed through with her queen. She had duties. And so she followed through with what the Lord was asking of her to do. And she stepped into that boldness and courage to be more than who she thought she was able to be. And that was the spirit that God put inside of me. I had to fight for people, but it wasn't in a way that I wasn't on the front lines. I had to support people in a way that was humbling. I had to support people in a way that I didn't want to do it, but I knew that was what God was asking me to do. And I had to be faithful, because that's the moment that he put inside of me. Purpose, will, call or not, that's what God needed me to do. And that's why I stayed. That entire article, that was why I stayed. And people didn't understand. People were confused. And now,
so what are they saying to you now? Because what are you doing?
I hate saying this now, but this podcast will probably preview after I come back, which is great.
Yeah, it will be.
Great,
it will be after.
My family doesn't know.
Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry, but I'm not. No.
Are we going to be lying by omission?
No.
Are we going to be what?
Lying by omission by not saying what we know?
No.
The important
if they
people
ask
know.
me, I'll tell them.
My core people in my family know.
Right.
The ones who I know are my spiritual caretakers. Just the people who have a lot of opinions. I kind of fly under the radar right now because I know I'm on call from the Lord and there's nothing stopping me from it. And so just that fearlessness that I know, so I came back from Israel, detoxed, adjusted to being home. And there was so much disappointment and discouragement, just because I wanted to be there. I was here. There was just this tearing, but Melissa called me about a week or two after I got home, and she was like, "Hey, we have this trip. We're doing a hope and healing tour. Would you come back?" And I was like, "Girl, if I got the funding, I would go back in a heartbeat. But right now, I don't have the funding. I got a lot of things going on at home. I don't see how God's gonna make a way. But I'll pray about it, and if God provides, I'll go." And so
God went, I sold 4 cattle. Here you go.
I know. Like if I didn't believe him for the $15,000 of like the Africa trip, like who am I, right? But a flower quickly fading. So I'm taking a group of 7 people. It's actually like 5 staff members and 2 people from our who aren't in our congregation, but they want to go with us. Back to Israel to serve the community, to serve the people, to help wives of soldiers who've been deployed, to help families who've been displaced that are living in hotels, to serve kids, to help farmers who are unable to harvest their crop because all their workers got called up into the IDF. So we are taking this time. It's literally like 7 days in country to pray for the nation, to serve the nation, to worship the Lord, to just be the hands and feet of Jesus in such a time as this.
Come on.
We're going to share, by the way, in case the funding hasn't gone through all the way. I know there's a team link.
Yeah.
So we'll put it on here. There's a chance that by the time you hop on it, it's already
they
provided
already
for.
And all that.
But there are a few, I know that there's a few people that still need to be funded, right? So we'd love to.
Yeah. So like we're still fundraising even while we're going to the trip because like some of us have eaten the cost. And so we would love to just like balance that back out so that these people can go. And so we're literally just so short of it. But I literally looked at people, and when my spiritual mom, April, she's one of the people that come in, she's like, I want to go. And I was like, okay. And Melissa was like, if you can get a team together, like
bring them. Let's go.
Bring them. Like, let's go. Like, let's do this thing. And so we just started asking anyone and everyone. And like, people thought I was nuts. And this is why, like, the Lord kind of stirred in my spirit, like, don't post this on social media for myself. Cause like people just saw me come home. But help support other people through social media and things like that. And so I was like, I knew I had my core people. And
she's fully funded already, by the way.
I'm fully funded.
Yeah, the Lord already went. Like I said, he wrote a check for the 4 cows and sold them.
48 hours. I was, minute I started texting people, I was like, okay, Lord, like, you know, my heart's Israel and I want to go back. Like, what are you going to do? And not challenging the Lord, but like, you know, like, okay, like God, if you want me here, that's it. But
don't tempt me. I'll start quoting word.
I was like, all right, God, like I'm going to send my core people. And within 48 hours, I had over 2,000. I was overfunded.
Come on, praise God.
I overfunded by like $700, which helped someone else on the team. And so just to see God show that evidence. And so we're heading out to Israel on November 30th.
Yeah, you're technically leaving in a few days
in
from
just
when
a few
we're recording
days,
this. Yeah.
And we'll be back December 8th. But we just know that if we don't stand and stay, who will?
Come on,
and
girl.
we just want to be the hands and feet of Jesus for all people. Like if there was opportunity in Gaza, like my heart would be like, I want to go serve because like you can never expect where God's going to call you to go. And you may not even understand the purpose, but if God's calling you to do it, it's your step of faith to step out of the boat. And no matter the size of the waves, to be obedient
to
and walk in faith.
So your
like
call,
that,
not someone else's.
Yeah.
Come on.
So
how about we finish? Land because I'm pretty sure everything's about to shut down.
We would do this on camera, but we really need to, our cameras are about to stop. So we're going to pray. And I want you guys to know, we need to continue to pray for everybody involved, for people in Palestine, or for people in Gaza. We need to pray for people in Israel. We need to pray for people in Ukraine, people in Russia. Like we just need to continue to pray and be the Christ-like people that are giving out mercy and love. And so we love you guys. Thank you for listening. Megs, great to have you. That was a long one.
That was very long.
Yeah, and there are some pieces of this conversation that are only going to be available on Patreon. So make sure you hop on there and you watch.
I actually, as you're listening right now, I do believe the camera shut off. And so we love you guys. I know they did. So we love you. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the audio for probably the past five minutes. So